Welcome, deep divers. Today we're plunging into something really fascinating, maybe even a bit perplexing. It's about us, humans, and our deep, often, well, unwavering loyalty to ideologies.
Yeah, why is it that certain beliefs, once we adopt them, seem to grab hold of us completely?
Exactly. They shape our identities, our choices, who we hang out with, everything. So this deep dive is our journey into understanding that powerful human dynamic.
But there's a twist now, isn't there?
Right. What really makes this deep dive different is how our world, increasingly driven by AI, adds this whole new, sometimes challenging layer to this ancient human thing.
It's quite the paradox. Ideologies can drive amazing progress, immense good,
Yeah.
but they can also fuel just profound destruction and conflict.
Absolutely.
So our mission today really is to try and unravel the intricate wiring behind it all, the psychological stuff, the cognitive shortcuts, what's happening in our brains neurologically, and even the social forces at play.
Why do we latch onto these belief systems so hard?
We'll look at the comfort they give, the sense of purpose, but also the ingrained biases, things deep in our thinking that they tap into.
And then there's AI.
And then there's AI. It's this critical new dimension. Its power in analyzing data, predicting behavior. It offers amazing ways to understand all this, but boy, does it raise some urgent questions.
Big ethical questions about manipulation, about our own agency, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so if we're diving into loyalty, let's start at the beginning. What exactly are these things we call ideologies?
Well, the sources we looked at describe them as all-encompassing systems of belief, but I like the other description too. Potent stories.
Potent stories.
Yeah.
That rings true. What makes them so potent, so almost insidious sometimes?
It's how they take our messy, complicated reality and just smooth it all out. They offer this coherent, sometimes even beautiful narrative.
Like a mental shortcut.
Yeah.
Makes sense of the chaos.
Exactly. And the scary part is, over time, these stories we've built or that have been built for us, they stop feeling like stories. They start to feel real, even inevitable.
Especially when they seem to make things happen, right? When you see the ideology having an effect in the world.
Precisely. And this taps into something really fundamental about being human. Our deep need to make sense of things, to impose some kind of structure on the world.
We crave meaning.
We do. And ideologies, well, they offer this profound relief. Relief from complexity, from ambiguity, from all those nagging existential anxieties.
One source called it the anesthetic of social utopianism. I found that striking.
It is. It's like a painkiller for the mind, isn't it? It lets people bypass the hard, uncomfortable work of real critical thinking.
Which explains why just throwing facts at someone deeply invested in an ideology often doesn't work.
Right, because the ideology is already doing something much deeper. It's providing emotional comfort, this perfect dream world of the future. Why give that up for cold, hard facts?
It makes so much sense. We're wired to seek meaning. And if an ideology hands it to us, beautifully packaged, well, questioning it is hard.
Very hard.
So what are these common hooks, these seductive promises that ideologies dangle in front of us?
Well, a huge one is the promise of utopia or salvation, a perfect world.
Like a heaven on earth kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah. Often it's framed as a terrestrial paradise or achieving collective and political salvation right here, right now. A worldly alternative to religious promises.
Any examples jump out?
Sure. Think about radical Islamism's vision. It's often about recreating this idealized past, a golden age, a return to perfection.
Ah, okay. So a perfect future. Or maybe going back to a perfect past.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see how the promise of just simplicity would be incredibly attractive too. Escaping the ambiguity.
Oh, absolutely. Being delivered from the confusing, complicated, ambiguous everyday and feeling connected to something more meaningful, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And many ideologies offer a kind of spiritual redemption, but judged by worldly standards.
How does that work?
Think about things like jihadist martyrdom, or even something like the intense anti-communist hysteria we saw in the past. It's this idea that your actions in this world give you profound spiritual meaning or validation.
Wow, that's a potent mix.
Yeah.
Beyond the personal, though, they often talk about society,
Yep.
right? Justice, dignity.
Definitely. A big promise is often about justice, dignity, and peace. You see this clearly in things like the progressive promise, advocating for universal health care, ending poverty, climate action.
And historically.
Historically, you had, say, the Whig Party pushing their American system, or the original progressives fighting corruption. Always this vision of a better, more just society.
And this often links to a belief in maybe perfecting things. like perfecting society and even human nature itself.
Yes, that's a core theme in many. The idea that we can perfect society through secular means. Sometimes, historically, this even involved justifying things like violent social revolution to sort of rebuild everything from the ground up.
And a key part of that rebuilding is often about fairness, isn't it? Addressing inequality and corruption.
Absolutely crucial. Challenging systems that seem to privilege the wealthy and powerful, fighting to put power back in the hands of the people, leveling the playing field is a huge draw.
It taps into that sense of injustice.
It really does. And finally, there's the idea of filling a vacuum. For people feeling disconnected, maybe from traditional communities or religion, an ideology can step in and offer a whole new sense of belonging, purpose, like a ready-made identity kit.
It gives you your tribe.
Exact.
So as you listen to this deep diver, think about those promises. Certainty, meaning, belonging. Which ones feel like they tack into the deepest human needs? It's pretty amazing how these threads run through so many different belief systems.
It is.
Okay, so we see the appeal, the seduction, but let's get to the core of it. Why do we as humans become so incredibly devoted? Let's peel back those layers, look at our own psychology.
Right. Ideologies are so powerful because they really fundamentally meet basic psychological needs. They act as these organizing forces, both epistemically telling us what's true and socially telling us how things should be structured.
They give us a map and the rules.
Kind of, yeah. Our sources call them epistemically and socially organizing forces. It directly addresses that human drive for meaning we talked about. And this need can become, well, incredibly intense after something like a traumatic loss.
So trauma can make people more susceptible?
It can, yes. It can create a void that radical ideologies sometimes promise to fill, a way to construct new meaning out of chaos.
Makes sense. And what about uncertainty?
That's huge, too. These belief systems often arise from what researchers call epistemic, existential, and relational motives. Basically, drives to reduce uncertainty, reduce threat, and reduce social friction or discord.
Like, we just want things to be clearer and safer.
Pretty much. And you see this reflected, for instance, in how conservative ideologies often gain traction when people feel heightened needs for certainty, security, and group solidarity. It aligns with things like uncertainty reduction theory in psychology.
Okay, and this leads to something you mentioned earlier that sounds, well, really interesting. Psychological reactance. What's that about?
It's fascinating and a bit scary. Imagine this. An ideology becomes part of you, part of your self-identity. It gives you meaning, certainty. Now, what happens when you encounter information that contradicts it?
You feel attacked.
Exactly. It's perceived not just as an attack on the idea, but as a threat to yourself. This triggers a strong emotional defense. You don't just calmly consider the new facts.
You fight back.
You fight back, you resist, you double down on your original beliefs. Paradoxically, the challenge ends up strengthening your commitment.
Wow. So just throwing facts at someone can actually backfire spectacularly.
It absolutely can. It can trigger that self-reinforcing cycle, which is why we have to talk about cognitive biases.
Yes, the mental shortcuts.
Right. These systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality, as the researchers put it, we don't see objective reality directly. We build a subjective reality in our heads based on what comes in.
And we act based on that subjective reality.
Precisely. It's part of what's called bounded rationality. Our brains are amazing, but they have limits, right? Limited attention, limited processing power. So we take shortcuts.
Which are usually helpful, but can lead us astray.
Exactly. They're efficient most of the time, but they can definitely lead to biased outcomes, especially when ideologies are involved.
So our brains are kind of set up to create their own echo chambers, like only following people online who agree with you.
That's a great analogy. And these biases are absolutely fuel for ideological loyalty. Should we run through a few key ones?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, first up, probably the most famous, confirmation bias. We actively seek out and listen more to information that confirms what we already believe.
Classic echo chamber fuel. Keeps us comfortable in our beliefs.
Totally. Then there's hindsight bias. You know, the I knew it all along feeling after something happens.
How does that play into ideology?
It makes the ideology seem incredibly wise, almost prophetic. Its predictions seem inevitable in retrospect, which reinforces its perceived truth.
Gotcha. What else?
The fundamental attribution error. This is a big one for division. We tend to blame other people's failures on their character. They're lazy, they're bad, rather than their circumstances or the situation.
But our own failures are situational, of course.
Naturally, this fuels that us versus them thinking their problems are because of who they are.
That sounds corrosive. Okay, next.
The false consensus effect. We tend to overestimate how many other people actually share our views.
Everyone thinks like me.
Right, which makes our ideology seem more universal, more obviously correct, and it boosts our group's self-esteem.
Okay. And the availability heuristic, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, that's where we judge how likely something is based on how easily examples spring to mind.
Like seeing a plane crash on the news and suddenly feeling flying is super dangerous.
Exactly. Ideologies exploit this brilliantly with vivid emotional stories or images. They make certain threats or possibilities feel much more immediate and likely than they might statistically be, amplifying fear or urgency.
Clever. And the framing effect.
That's simply about how information is presented. The same facts, framed differently, can lead to totally different reactions. Think 90% fat-free versus 10% fat.
The same product, different feeling.
Right.
Applied to politics.
Yeah.
Big impact.
And finally, let's not forget cognitive dissonance. That uncomfortable feeling when you hold two conflicting beliefs, or when your beliefs clash with your actions or new information.
What do we do then?
We hate that feeling. So often the easiest way out is to dismiss or rationalize away the conflicting information rather than change our core belief. This reinforces loyalty. It's just mentally easier.
So these aren't bugs, they're features.
In a way, yes. It's important to remember these biases aren't necessarily flaws. They're part of our adaptive cognitive toolkit of allowing for faster decisions. Speed over perfect accuracy.
And ideologies just happen to be really good at tapping into these built-in shortcuts.
Extremely good.
Yeah.
Which means if we want to counter harmful adherence, it's not just about facts. It's about helping people understand how they think.
Metacognition. Thinking about thinking.
Exactly. Becoming aware of our own biases is a crucial first step.
Okay, so our individual brains are wired for this. But we don't exist in a vacuum, do we? Our biology interacts with our society.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the neurological and sociological sides of the coin. Our very brain chemistry plays a role.
How so?
Well, think about the emotional centers, the limbic system, the amygdala processing fear, the hippocampus encoding memories. They get wired to associate good feelings with belonging to our ideological group.
And the reward system.
Oh yeah, dopamine gets involved, the mesolimbic pathway lights up. We actually get a little neurochemical reward, a hit, when we conform, when we see our in-group succeed, or even when we act against an out-group.
Wait, our brain rewards us for us versus them thinking.
Research suggests reward regions show greater activation when we're delivering positive outcomes for our own group, and yes, even negative outcomes for others. It's a neurologically driven impulse.
That's unsettling.
It is, and some sources even talk about ideology acting as a kind of super stimulus. It can essentially hijack that reward system, much like an addiction. Adherence triggers dopamine, reinforcing the behavior in a loop.
So breaking away from an ideology could feel like breaking an addiction.
The analogy holds up disturbingly well in some cases. The withdrawal, the resistance, it can be psychologically intense.
Wow. So are there specific chemicals involved?
Oxytocin is a key player, often called the love hormone or bonding hormone.
Right. Involved in trust and connection.
Yes, it's pivotal for bonding within groups. But here's the catch. It has a dual nature. While it ramps up in-group bonding and trust,
But does what to outsiders?
it can simultaneously increase suspicion or bias against other groups. It draws the circle tighter for us, but also potentially higher against them.
So the love hormone has a dark side.
It seems so. It strengthens our tribe, but potentially at the cost of broader connection.
This is getting complicated. Are there actual physical brain differences?
Fascinatingly, research suggests there might be correlations. For instance, some studies show conservatives, on average, might have a slightly larger amygdala linked to threat detection.
And liberals?
Liberals, again on average, tend to show a larger anterior cingulate cortex, an area involved in monitoring uncertainty and processing conflicting information.
So our biology might actually predispose us, just a little, towards certain political leanings.
The evidence points that way, though it's complex and debated, obviously. Other areas like the prefrontal cortex, involved in empathy and control, also play roles. Even our attention systems, like the RAS, might help keep ideological messages top of mind.
So it's really not just a conscious choice then. Our deep brain structures, maybe even our genes to some extent, are nudging us.
It certainly looks like a much deeper, more biologically influenced part of us than we might like to think.
Which flows perfectly into the social side of things, right? How society shapes this.
Exactly. Theories like system justification theory suggest ideologies help us manage that uncertainty and threat we talked about and reduce social friction. People with stronger needs for certainty or security Often conservatives or highly religious individuals tend to have a stronger desire to share reality with others like them. They perceive more consensus within their group.
It feels safer when everyone agrees with you.
It does. And from an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. Tribalism was adaptive. Sticking together meant survival. Humans are fundamentally social. We're ill-equipped to live on their own.
We needed the group.
We did. And our evolution seems to have pushed us towards being more group-minded. Conforming to norms, punishing rule breakers, these behaviors helped groups cohere. And they arguably laid groundwork for political ideology.
So we're hardwired for belonging, and ideologies give us a powerful script for how to belong.
Precisely. They socially organize communities. They're a necessary aspect of social cohesion. But here's that paradox again.
The cohesion is mostly internal.
Often, yes. In-group cohesion frequently comes at the cost of broader societal cohesion. Think about populist movements. They often explicitly create new political and social cleavages, dividing society into us and them, the people, versus the elite.
So strong internal bonds can lead to major external friction, polarization.
That's a very common dynamic. Internal solidarity translates into external antagonism. And of course, all this is reinforced by our social structures, family, schools, media, laws. They all play a role in embedding and spreading ideologies.
Okay, so this deep wiring, these social dynamics, what has the impact been across history? It feels like it cuts both ways dramatically.
Absolutely. The dual impacts are undeniable. On the plus side, ideologies have been incredible engines for positive change.
Like social movements.
Exactly. The civil rights movement fighting for racial equality under leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., women's suffrage, the anti-apartheid movement with figures like Mandela, environmentalism, labor movements pushing for workers' rights. These were all driven by powerful ideological commitments.
And nation building.
Nationalist ideologies have certainly fueled independence movements and helped forge national unity, for better or worse. And egalitarian ideas have led to things like progressive taxation and social safety nets.
But then there's the shadow. The dark side is very dark.
Extremely dark. Ideologies are frequently behind extremism and violence. You see this mindset that's hostile to compromise, this rigid us versus them, often a disturbing preoccupation with purity.
Examples.
ISIS, the January 6th Capitol attack here in the U.S., the Nazi obsession with racial purity. These are fueled by ideology. They create conflict, polarization, leading sometimes to anguished and bloody conflict, even ethnic cleansing and civil war.
And they can justify inequality.
Definitely. Ideologies can be used to justify or simply ignore existing inequalities.
Yeah.
Think about how certain economic ideologies, like some forms of neoliberalism, have been linked to widening income gaps.
And then there's totalitarianism.
Yes, the suppression of dissent. Regimes where the ideology becomes absolute, and individuals are just seen as assets or liabilities to the state's grand plan. Nazi Germany's National Socialism, the Soviet Union under communism, chilling examples.
And manipulation plays a huge role in getting there, right? Propaganda.
Absolutely central. Propaganda is all about influencing attitudes and behaviors to serve an ideological goal, and the techniques are often quite predictable.
Like what?
Well, you have the bandwagon effect. Everyone's doing it, so should you. Appeals to our desire to conform.
Now there's fear.
Fear-mongering is classic. Exploiting anxieties, exaggerating threats. Remember, the Saddam's missiles are 45 minutes away, claimed before the Iraq War. Or how Nazi Germany constantly stoked fear.
Yeah. What else?
Name-calling, just using derogatory labels to discredit opponents. Simple but effective. And glittering generalities using big, emotionally appealing words like freedom, justice, patriotism, but without any concrete meaning attached. Just vibes.
So it's less about the substance, more about the emotional manipulation.
Often, yes. And history is littered with examples of this being used to sway nations.
Like?
The yellow press drumming up war fever for the Spanish-American War. The questionable accounts around the Gulf of Tonkin incident that escalated Vietnam. Bismarck editing a telegram to provoke France into war. Goebbels having total control of media in Nazi Germany. The Soviet Union constantly rewriting history to fit the party line. It's a long, grim list.
Okay, so that's the historical playbook. Now let's bring it right up to date. What happens when you add artificial intelligence into this already volatile mix? This feels like where things get potentially exponential.
It really does. And the first crucial point is AI is not neutral. It learns from data, and that data reflects our world, biases and all. Plus, AI can be deliberately tuned to reflect specific viewpoints.
So AI isn't just a tool observing ideology, it's becoming a participant in the ideological landscape.
That's a great way to put it. It actively shapes it, which leads to significant risks.
Such as?
Well, first, the risk of amplifying biases and polarization. If AI learns from biased data, it can perpetuate those biases in things like hiring tools or even predictive policing.
And language models, like ChatGPT.
Yes, large language models have already shown political biases based on their training and the ability to fine-tune them towards specific ideologies that could create supercharged digital echo chambers tailored to individuals.
Okay, that's worrying. What else?
Beyond amplifying bias, there's the direct risk of manipulating public opinion and undermining our agency. AI can analyze sentiment in real time, craft incredibly personalized messages designed to resonate emotionally, hitting all our cognitive bias buttons, maybe even triggering those neurological reward pathways.
By getting us subtly without us even realizing it.
Potentially, yes. Making it harder and harder to tell what's authentic information or feeling and what's AI-generated persuasion. There's that chilling phrase about AI adapting to our desires before we even know them.
Which could warp what we even think we want. And the ethics of researching this stuff must be tricky, too.
Hugely. Informed consent, data privacy, the potential for social network analysis to be used for manipulation without people realizing it's a minefield.
Okay. That's the scary stuff. But surely AI isn't all bad news here. Is there potential for positive impact, too?
Absolutely, and it's important we explore that. AI could be a powerful tool for analyzing and countering malicious ideologies.
How would that work?
Using things like natural language processing and sentiment analysis, AI can sift through vast amounts of online text and speech, identify harmful narratives, track disinformation campaigns, narrative warfare in real time, and then allow for rapid responses, like timely fact checks, or maybe even suggesting more empathy-based counter messages.
Like a digital immune system against propaganda. Interesting.
Kind of, yeah. AI could also be used to foster critical thinking. Imagine AI tools that help people become more media literate, learning to spot fake news, recognize logical fallacies, identify manipulative language.
Fighting fire with fire, almost. Using AI to help us resist manipulation.
Potentially. And maybe AI could even help promote inclusive social cohesion.
How? By analyzing what divides us versus what unites us.
Exactly. By understanding the dynamics better, AI could help identify common ground, shared challenges that cut across divides. Maybe even inform policies that address the root causes of division, the underlying needs that harmful ideologies exploit.
Okay, so there's potential, but also massive risks. Given this whole picture, our deep psychological wiring, the power of ideology, and now this AI accelerant, how do we move forward? What are the actual strategies?
It really has to be a multi-pronged approach. There's no single silver bullet here. First off, we desperately need ethical AI development and governance. Meaning prioritizing transparency, knowing how these systems work, explainability, accountability. Yeah. Especially for AI that influences public opinion.
And tackling bias.
Yes, using fairness-aware algorithms, diverse training data, constant auditing, and crucially, strong human oversight. We can't just let the algorithms run wild. This needs researchers, ethicists, policymakers working together, across borders even.
Building the guardrails as we built the tech. Makes sense. What about society itself?
That's the second pillar. Fostering societal resilience. We need to empower individuals. Promote media literacy and critical thinking skills from a young age. Teach people how to evaluate sources, spot fallacies, recognize emotional manipulation. Use those fact-checking tools. Snopes, factcheck.org, they're out there.
They become better consumers of information.
And better thinkers. Encourage cognitive flexibility, being open to new ideas. Open discourse. Get people out of their echo chambers. Interact with diverse viewpoints. Have different experiences.
And community. You mentioned that earlier.
Absolutely vital. Invest in building inclusive communities. When people feel a genuine sense of belonging and purpose, they're less vulnerable to the divisive promises of exclusive ideologies. Strong, cohesive societies that address disparities are more resilient.
Okay, ethical AI, resilient society. What's the third part? Can AI itself help?
Yes, that's the third angle. Leveraging AI's potential for counter-ideology and promoting well-being.
So using those AI tools we talked about.
Right. Developing AI for rapid fact-checking, for analyzing narratives to spot misinformation quickly and deploy counter-narratives effectively.
But not just fighting facts with facts.
No. Crucially, focusing AI development on understanding empathy and nuance. Logic alone often fails against deep beliefs. Can AI help us bridge communication gaps, maybe even suggest more empathetic ways to engage?
That's an intriguing idea, using AI to understand the why behind the belief.
Exactly. And using AI's predictive power not just for manipulation, but to identify the root causes of vulnerability, the stress, the inequality, the disconnection that make people susceptible in the first place. That could inform real-world policy changes.
Okay, so pulling this all together, it's incredibly complex, isn't it? This human pull towards ideology, this loyalty.
It really is. Deep psychological needs for meaning, certainty, belonging, our own cognitive shortcuts making us susceptible, brain chemistry rewarding conformity, evolutionary pressures for group cohesion.
And ideologies package all that up, offering these seductive stories, this comfort, this kind of mental anesthetic against life's messiness.
Precisely. And now, AI arrives on the scene, adding this huge layer of complexity. Massive potential for misuse, but also, maybe, for positive change if we're careful.
Yeah.
The way forward, it seems, has to involve being really deliberate and ethical about how we build and use AI, and at the same time working hard to make our societies more resilient, more critical, more connected in healthy ways.
So by understanding all these deep mechanisms, the psych, the neuro, the social, by using AI responsibly, maybe we can aim for a future where S doesn't automatically require them.
That has to be the hope, doesn't it? Building collective identity based on shared understanding and cooperation, not division.
So here's the final thought for you, deep diver. Thinking about everything we've just unpacked, our wiring for tribes, the powerful allure of ideological promises, and now the influence of AI, can we really foster a collective identity that's truly inclusive? One that doesn't fundamentally rely on defining itself against an outgroup? What stands out most to you from all this?
It's a huge question.
Definitely something to mull over. Maybe chat about it with others. Keep diving deep into understanding this complex, fascinating thing we call human nature.
This is DigitView.